I've tested hundreds of trading strategies and found 3 rules that changed my trading. I've been day trading for 7 years and have backtested strategies like this, and this. I wanted to find what actually makes a strategy profitable. In this video, I'm going to share everything I've learned after backtesting hundreds of strategies and explain why most trading information found online is simply false or doesn't work. Then I'll share the simple roadmap I followed to become a profitable trader using these lessons. So I backtested 100 trading strategies. This took over 45 hours of real-time backtesting. And through this backtesting session, I found 3 specific strategies that worked the best. And in this video, I will share these strategies with you. And on top of that, I made 2 discoveries on why some strategies simply work and are easy to understand and other strategies fail. With this being said, you can see this backtesting session was done on 2023 QQQ for the whole year. This one was done on QQQ or NQ for 2022, and of course 2024 QQQ as well. So the goal of this video is to teach you everything we found backtesting these strategies. This way, by the end of the video, you will learn the exact information on what truly makes a strategy profitable, and of course we will deep dive into these results. So instead of you trying to spend days figuring out which strategy is profitable, we will break down the 3 most profitable strategies and exactly how to trade them. So the main reason I did this is I wanted to find what makes a trading strategy work in the real live markets. Because what happens to new traders is they'll come into the market, they'll make some gains in the beginning. However, most often those gains are very short-lived and they'll end up blowing their account even though they're trading the same strategy. So I wanted to know what makes 95% of traders lose money and what separates the 95% from the 5% who are truly profitable in the market. For me, I used to think if I followed one system consistently, I would be profitable. However, this simply wasn't the case. When we were testing these strategies and systems, there were strategies where we were consistently following the same system. However, they would have too much of a drawdown period where even if they were profitable, because of huge drawdown periods, it would make it very difficult for a new trader to consistently stay profitable or even stay afloat with these systems. So instead of what I previously learned, I actually ended up making new discoveries. And with these discoveries, there were 3 main strategies that stood out to me that performed the best. Now, before we get into these strategies, we tested these on stocks, options, forex, crypto, and futures. Therefore, no matter what instrument you trade, these strategies do work, and the insights that I will give you in this video will still apply no matter what instrument you're trading. In this first backtesting session, we started with $10,000, and as you can see with the net daily P&L, you can see that we were slowly starting to make money in the beginning, but once we truly started compounding the account, you can see this strategy's performance increase. Now, of course, this is over a 1-year period. The profit and loss for this strategy isn't what we want to look at. What we want to look at is the trade win rate, which was 57% with a 2.53 profit factor. This means for every 100 trades, we would win an average of about 57 trades. And on top of that, a 2.5 risk factor simply means for every $100 of risk, we would make $253 of profit. Because we started with $10,000, this means the trade expectancy for each trade was coming out to about $36,000 once we started compounding this account. Once again, on this session, we tested a different setup. This one had a 56% win rate with 200 trades. And finally, this was the 3rd setup that we traded. And you can see this one had a positive net curve as well. So now that you've seen the results of these setups, what are the 3 profitable strategies that I tested over hundreds of back-tested data? Well, let me break down the 3 most profitable setups. So here we are on the first setup. This setup was the previous day strategy. What does this mean? Well, for this strategy, all we had to do was mark out the previous day high and low. And this is the New York session. So this means from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, we mark out the low of the day and we mark out the high of the day. On the following day, all we did is if we come over here on this side, we waited for the stock to break above or below the previous day high or the previous day low, and then look for a retest back into this area. You can see the stock broke above. We then came back for the retest with strong price action, and then all we did was look for high of day. And in this example, you can clearly see the breakout, the retest, where we would enter our profit target and our stop loss. So this was the first strategy. This is the one with the 57% win rate over a 1-year period. Now let's go over to the second strategy. So for the second strategy, if you've watched my channel before, you've seen the first candle strategy. And this shouldn't come as a surprise, but this strategy was one of the more profitable strategies that we tested. I have a full in-depth video breaking down this strategy and exactly how to trade it with more examples. So if you want to watch that video after you watch this video, that playlist will be in the description. But you can see all we do for this strategy is wait for the first 5 or 15-minute candle to form. And once again, that would be from 9:30 a.m. to 9:35 a.m. Eastern, or 9:30 to 9:45 a.m. Eastern. And what we're looking for is a break above, a retest back into that previous resistance now turned support, or the previous support now turned resistance, and we're looking for continuation to either low of day or high of day. If you don't know whether to mark out the 5-minute or the 15-minute candle, don't worry, I will have a full in-depth video explaining how to choose whether to trade the 5-minute or 15-minute every single day. Now, with this being said, you can see this one had a really nice move to the upside. We came back for the retest. We saw buyers stepping in on the retest. We then looked for our stop loss right below the candle that we entered on and our profit target at high of day. And this strategy worked out very nicely. We were done the day by 11 o'clock, or about 90 minutes into the day. And finally, the third strategy that was the most profitable was the pre-market strategy. In this strategy, we want to mark out the pre-market session. This comes from 4 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. For the pre-market session, we want to mark out 4 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern. It doesn't matter what instrument you're trading, that's what you're going to mark out. And then we're simply looking for that breakout, the retest, and then continuation. The reason this is such a powerful setup is because this is a very low risk trade. We know if sellers try to bring this stock below this previous support, well, now this will be used as resistance. And therefore, this is the lowest risk point on the chart. But on top of that, this is a high probability trade because this is where sellers want to hold the stock for a move back down to the downside. With this being said, you can see in this example, we had a very nice move down to low of day. We then came back for the retest with weak price action. Our stop loss is simply a break above the candle. And you can see we are coming down into low of day extremely nicely for a nice quick scalp. So based off the 3 strategies I just explained, do you see a common theme throughout all of those setups? Now, of course, I tested these strategies, but for myself personally, I've only been trading these 3 setups for the past week. And within the past week, this is a regulated interactive broker screenshot, and you can see the performance over this last week by only trading these 3 setups in real time. Now, of course, I've been trading for 7 years, so these results did not come overnight. It took years of practice to have a week like this, but it's not just me. I trade live every single day in the Accelerator and Traders Lab, so these results simply can't be faked, as there's hundreds of traders listening to me executing my trades in real time. The most important part is they are not copying my trades, but rather they understand the discoveries I'm going to explain to you in this video, and therefore they know how to make their strategy work for them. So what is the first discovery? Well, the first discovery is simple. Simplicity equals profitability. Every single time I was testing these setups, you can see this is another setup that I was testing. This account was growing until it completely blew up. And there was multiple strategies that I tested that had the same performance, where they would slowly start making money, but then blow up in a couple of trades. So what was the problem? The problem was 90% of strategies that failed had too many entry criterias and parameters. It was too confusing to execute in real time. So even if the strategy slowly started showing results, because of the confusion and how complicated it was hard to execute it in real time. And because of this, most of the time, the strategy would end up in a net negative. The biggest problem with the strategies that didn't work is they were not repeatable setups every day. I tested different strategies with indicators, key levels, smart money strategies, but the problem was when you go to execute these strategies, it's hard to tell when to enter, and therefore you hesitate on the setup. You end up confused on where your stop loss should be, where your profit target should be, and most importantly, you get scared to enter or exit the trade just because there's too many variables and parameters with the strategy that are confusing to understand every single time. Now, let's compare what didn't work to the best strategies. Well, the difference was the best strategies had 3 to 5 clear and systematic rules that we could follow every time. If we take this previous example of the previous day high and low retest, what were the 3 rules that we had to follow? Well, number 1, we waited for a break of high of day or low of day. Number 2, we waited for strong price action on the retest. And finally, number 3, we entered the trade with our stop loss below the previous candle and our profit target at high of day. And all the setups that I talked about in this video, they all had 3 to 5 rules that I can follow every time to see consistent results. So for the first discovery, if you can't explain your strategy in 2 to 3 sentences, it is too confusing. And most traders think that they need a complicated strategy to become profitable because there's no way a simple strategy like this can result in profitability long term. But what you need to understand is complication and confusion is what's slowing you down from reaching your trading goals. Now, for the second discovery, I realized out of 30 good trading days, you only have 10 to 15 A+ conditions no matter what strategy you're trading. Now, to further illustrate this, let's use these 2 charts as an example. It doesn't matter what setup or strategy you trade, the reality is there is no strategy that will have a 100% win rate. And therefore, out of 30 trading days in a month, you will only have about 10 to 15 days where your strategy has a higher probability of working out. If we use this example on the left side here, you can see on this day, we have a clear resistance on the top here, and we have a clear support on the bottom. However, in between the support and resistance, all the stock did was consolidate throughout the day. Vice versa, you can see we had this clear level of support up here. We then had resistance, but then we broke above the resistance. We had resistance again, we broke above resistance. And you can see throughout the day, we kept breaking above the resistance. And therefore, this shows that this stock is in a clear uptrend and not range price action. So if we compare taking trades for the day, let's use both of these examples. On the left side, when it was a choppy day, you can see we took the first trade when it broke out of the 5-minute high. It came back for the retest, but it failed. And therefore, we lost $500 on the first trade. The second trade, you can see we consolidated throughout the day. However, we took this trade back on the 5-minute high. And once again, we didn't actually reach high of day. And therefore, we wouldn't have taken profit and we lost $1,200 once again. And finally, on the third trade here, you can see we broke above, we retested, and this time when we entered, we ended up actually making that brand new high of day, and this was a $600 win. So on this specific day, we took 3 trades, we lost the first 2 and only won 1 trade, but we still ended the day at a negative $1,100 balance. Whereas if we simply traded the break and retest on a day that was trending, you can see on the first trade here, we waited for the break, we waited for the retest again. This first trade worked out very nicely, a $700 win. And then once again, we had resistance up here. We waited for the break, retest, and we entered in again, and another $400 win. So on this day, we took 2 trades and we actually ended up making $1,100, but this $1,100 was more simple and stress-free to make just because we traded the right market conditions. So you have to understand your trading edge is designed for certain conditions. It is not designed for all conditions. Therefore, unlike you think or you may have seen on the internet, it's actually better to not take a trade every single day hoping to make money, but rather it's important to see when you have a higher probability with your edge. For example, if you're a range trader, you want to trade more choppy days. However, if you're a momentum trader, you want to trade days that are showing strong uptrends or strong downtrends. Remember, the best traders focus on the quality of their trades. They will not focus on being correct. They don't care about being right 100% of the time and having the highest win rate. That doesn't matter. What truly matters is focusing on quality trades that are within your system on the correct days. So now you know 2 important lessons for the future. 1, simplicity equals profitability, and 2, not every day is a trading day. However, now that you've learned this, you still need to tie everything together. Though you know those 2 rules, how can you determine which day is a high probability and low probability day? And out of the setups that I talked about, which strategy aligns the best for you? So to make everything simple for you, I've compiled everything you need to learn into a 10-hour free free playlist that will help you start trading as a complete beginner. This playlist will help you answer any questions that you have and go through these concepts in more detail for absolutely free. So if you learned something from this video, make sure to leave it a like. If you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more educational content. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and I will catch you next week with a brand new video.